everybody. Welcome to another episode of Reasonably Tactical. Today we're going to talk about Big Sarge Syndrome. So it's one of those things, man. Everybody knows that guy. They're the guy that still thinks that they're in charge, that they got their stripes on, if they even actually wore stripes. They're the guy that just cannot let go, and they get that little ounce of authority, and they're going to tell you they're.
So basically, you're saying the old high school quarterback that is now the assistant general manager at the local Ford dealer.
Yeah,
exactly.
That guy. But even more so, they walk around, they puff their chest out, and they got their stroll, and be sitting at a cookout or football party, and they want to talk work stuff or about some regular big Army school, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're watching a football game, dude. Or like, the kids are playing. Why are you? I don't care, And now they're the guy that, they qualified twice a year through the 4 years they were in. And they hang out at the local ranges, telling war stories and basically just taking the fun out of shooting. They're the ones that'll tell you about they were doing this crazy Western competition and they had M16s and were shooting out to 1,000 yards. And you're like, okay, guy, like whatever you say.
Yeah, it's interesting because we do encounter this in so many different careers too. I encounter it in my primary career of doing video production equipment, and I'll hear guys talk about their big production gig they did back in the day with the Super Bowl of '85. I'm like, that's great, guys, but we're in 2023.
Yeah,
now.
Times are different, equipment's different, techniques are different, but they're going to tell you about. How great they were, and if coach would have put them in, the team would have gone to state. The Uncle Rico, type syndrome.
Yes, that's exactly it. It's Uncle Rico. Yeah. Yes.
Yep. You can tell the difference between like Big Sarge or a team guy at the range if you run into him.
Oh yeah.
And I've had this happen actually up at McMiller's before, where I'm sitting there and I just have my SF Association ball cap on, which I wear only because it doesn't have a little thing on top.
You were asking for trouble with that hat for the record.
No, but it's the most comfortable hat for the range because it doesn't have a little button on top, so when I have my headset on, it's not digging into my head. And I notice a guy, he's got his Red Empire t-shirt on, so he comes over and he's just like, what group are you in? And, tell him third, and, shakes my hand, and, like, hey, this is where we do our meetings, you should stop by sometime. And then that was it. When I left, shook his hand again, have a good one. And that's how team guys interact at the range versus Big Sarge, like, comes strutting over and let me tell you about the big one. There I was, 91, the big one, and you're like, all right, guy, all right, or they're the guy that's like, yeah, I was forced recon 18 years and then they started MARSOC, which is stupid, so I got out. And it's like, you got out at 18 years? You couldn't wait 2 more years to retire? No, because it's stupid. And it's like, okay, guy. What's your real story?
Right. And it's a ridiculous attitude to have. And I never understood this too. Like, we see it in athletes, especially. Like, in my industry, I always see people that want to talk about, like I talked about with video production, but also with martial arts too.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, oh well, back in the day, things were a lot different then. We didn't have foam on the mats. We had to do it on concrete. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You never had to do it on concrete.
It's the old, like, we walk barefoot through the snow, uphills both ways, and it's like, relax,
There's a master I was talking to very recently. You know who I'm talking about. Nice guy, but it just was like he was just going on and on and on about how things were 40 years ago, and I'm like, that's great, that's cool. I respect your history and your lineage.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude.
But times have changed. Things evolve. No matter what, like you said, no matter what line of work, things evolve, things change. And it's like, you got to stay current with the times. And don't get me wrong, you got to remember what the past was like to appreciate what you have today. Like fully. You have to be able, and obviously there's going to be similarities. But, the difference is Big Sarge is going to tell you, like, he was the end-all, be-all, and still is, and it's like, end of the day, it's just relax, Francis.
Right.
You're not as good as you think you are.
Right. Exactly. That's the whole point of the shirts.
You're
right.
Not as good as you think you are.
Which, by the way, I do want to say thank you for having these made. Are we going to offer these to our viewers?
We don't have enough right now, but
we should.
Maybe one day, yeah.
I think it's something that we should definitely consider. So here, if you guys are a little closer in on me, it just says you're not as good as you think. And I dig the emblem, by the way. This is slick. Which, by the way, from a distance, it kind of looks like a middle finger, which is why I really like it. And I think it's great. But how do you think the best way for people to cope with Big Sarge syndrome from the recipient and also Big Sarge himself?
Well, I mean, the recipient this is what I do, is I just let them say their piece, just kind of, yep, all right, thank you for your service, man, appreciate it, and, or they'll try to give you that advice, and you're like, oh, sweet, thank you for sharing, and just kind of let it go, and don't get in the friction point with them, because that's what they're looking for, and especially if they're in that little position of authority, they're looking to be able to exercise that authority and show you that they're in charge. And then for those of you that are Big Sarge, take a deep breath. Like, remember, you're never as good as you think you are. Treat people the same way you want to be treated. And you might have done this much. There's always somebody that's bigger, better, stronger, faster, more experienced. So always just treat everybody like that. Like, you can learn from everybody. Everybody has their own experiences. They might be better in one little skill than you are. And just kind of treat everybody like that. So just remember, be a good person, treat people with respect, and have a good one.